guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are talking about the mental toughness of Novak Djokovic and a little bit broader about the big three, of course. But before we get into that, please subscribe to my channel, like the video or dislike the video, and comment something. I like responding to comments, I like hearing your opinions, and I'll definitely respond if you comment something. The big three has, or should I say, all of them had immense power before coming on to basically any court, and especially if you look at specific cases like Roger at Wimbledon, Rafa at Roland Garros, or Novak at Australian Open. Players without even coming onto court know what kind of pressure they are facing and what kind of history these guys have on those courts. Of course, that mental edge comes with the history that these guys have at those places. But there are definitely several other reasons that are explainable when it comes to their mental toughness. All of them basically have almost complete or to complete games at this point. You know that if you're coming onto court and playing against them, you need your best A++ tennis to have a chance. All of them have been through tough losses. They perfected their games because of that. Casual tennis fans and some real tennis fans have a short-term memory, and I'm also sometimes guilty of it. But all of these guys have suffered some tough losses in the Grand Slam semifinals, finals. As the true champions they are, they went home, they went training and addressed those things that let them down in those semifinals, finals. Like, for example, you see Rafael Nadal working on his serve, and his game is no longer let's put a ball into play and grind till the opponent can't go more. For a while in the beginning of his career and through a big part of his career, that was his game. But now we see him getting a lot more free points on his serve, and that definitely was a huge part of his longevity up until this moment. All three of them have been through almost every imaginable situation you can face in a tennis match. And at the end of the day, they played a lot of matches. If you are constantly getting to the end of the tournament, to the end of the Grand Slams, you are by definition going to play a lot of matches in your career, a lot of important matches in your career. And all three of them have strict routines that they follow if they are not injured. But from my perspective, the most integral part of their mental toughness that they can address is the completeness of their game. Yes, you can go through a lot of mental coaching, and you can be secure about yourself, you can have a lot of confidence, but if you don't have the game to follow that up, what's the point of it? For example, let's look at somebody like Alexander Zverev. You know that the guy has horrible second serve. Horrible in the sense of percentages and the double faults that he makes regularly. It is almost expected that in those crunch moments, his second serve is going to give and you'll have a chance. Let's look at Roger's loss at Wimbledon to Hurkacz. The entire world was shocked in a way when he lost in that quarterfinal, and nobody was noticing that throughout the match his footwork wasn't there, especially as the match progressed. Roger Federer is definitely going to make history of tennis as one of the greatest shot makers of the sport, but the second most important part of his game is his footwork. And casual tennis fans don't pay attention to stuff like that. And if we look at somebody like Rafael Nadal, if his legs are not there, he is not there. And we saw the result of that in the Roland Garros semi-final against Djokovic. The match was lost from the start because the main point of Novak's game in that semi-final was to take out Rafa's legs, which he successfully did in the end. But Rafa also has variety when it comes to his style of play. He always can fall back to his defensiveness. I have this feeling that that part of his game is never going to let him down. But his bread and butter for the past, I don't know how many years, were points that were 4 shots or less. So his aggressiveness and security on every shot that he makes in any point is a huge part of his game. And if he's not able to play his aggressive A game, he always knows that he can fall to his defensiveness. In certain situations, of course, that doesn't do the job at the end, but against 90 of the top 100 players, it would do the job. And finally, we come to Novak's game. His game is the least understandable when it comes to the big three. Casual fans can't actually get what he's best at, what's his best shot, because his game is so diverse at this point that there is no best shot. You know that his two-hander is probably the best backhand on the tour. But if you actually look at the stats, his forehand is much more potent. In 2010, when Novak decided to make changes in his routine and his style of play, worked tirelessly on his shots that were lacking, for example, forehand, his serve, his net play. That was the start of him completing his game. And he achieved that finally in this year. Just as he said, he is the most complete player today. And that's in this case especially because of his net play. What we saw in Wimbledon is not something that we're exactly used to from Novak when it comes to net play. For years he has been known as the guy you can break on his forehand. You can drag him to the net and get a lot of points there. But now that he has completed his game, at times it seems almost impossible to beat him, and that's not taking into account his mental toughness. Just as a tennis player, if we remove the mental part of the game, he's truly solid. I hate when people call his game boring, because there is a lot of strategic play in every single match that he plays. For example, everybody thinks of Roger's backhand as his weaker side, and nobody actually notices how his backhand, for the most part, used to set up the game that he wants to play. Just because he doesn't make a certain number of winners of that side doesn't mean that that shot is useless. And tennis isn't and never was a game of just winners. If you look at the stats of the matches, those that have more winners than errors are like gems, you will never find them. So the true genius of Novak's game right now is that he's basically able to adapt to any kind of player that he sees over the net. And that was particularly shown in this year's Roland Garros, where he, in the semi-final, faced Rafa and used those short-angled forehands to basically break Rafa's backhand, to not let him play inside-out forehands. And in the final, he makes the adjustment of breaking down Tsitsipas's backhand. If you look at those two matches, strategies for playing those matches are extremely different. And that just speaks to completeness of Novak's game. His ability to mold his game to a style of play that his opponent plays. And of course, just like Rafa, Novak has his A type of style play and his B and C and D, depending on how he's feeling that day. For example, if he knows that he can't be aggressive that day, that his precision on that day is just not up to par, he will definitely fall back into defending. And that is basically enough to beat, let's say, like 95 of top 100 players. Novak's defense is just that good. And of course his serve gives him a lot of free points. Novak was also known, just as Rafa, as somebody who would throw a ball into a point and grind till there is no tomorrow. And that style of play just isn't going to bring you longevity in your career. And we saw from all three of our big three adjustments to their game for the sake of longevity. We saw what Roger did in 2017 with his racket, Rafa improving his serve, Novak improving his serve, forehand and net play. So yeah, when it comes to mental toughness, and Novak, for example, facing match points, he's certain as one of the best returners in the tennis history that he'll probably make that shot into play and that he's able to defend almost anything. Also, a big part of it, of course, is experience and his mental health and coaches. With that being said, it is the end of this video. The next video is coming when the draw for the Olympics is published, and I'll go through it and see what can we expect and what's the draw. So yeah, that's it. Bye guys.